You are 19 years old, and a stranger just handed you the keys to a $300 million empire. Your father is dead, and everything he built now belongs to you. The problem? You had no idea who your father really was. Your name is Marcus. You grew up with your mother in a small apartment. Your father was never part of the picture. You worked a part-time job. You had $47 in your bank account the day the call came. A lawyer called. Your father, Raymond Voss, had died, and he left everything to you. You thought it was a mistake. It was not. The lawyer slid a thick envelope across the desk and said 4 words. Read this before deciding. Inside, a map of 17 businesses, 42 employees, and a handwritten letter addressed only to you. The letter said, I built all of this for you, but first you need to understand what it truly is. On the surface, every business was legal. Car washes, nightclubs, import companies, storage units. But underneath each one, a hidden layer of financial activity invisible to regulators for years. You sat in your car for 2 hours after leaving that office, not moving, not speaking. You had 2 choices: walk away from everything or walk in. The first meeting was in the back room of one of the nightclubs. 12 people, all older than you by at least 15 years. Every one of them was watching to see if you would break. The oldest man, Greco, leaned forward and said 3 words. Prove you belong. You stood up and said, I am not here to prove anything. I am here to learn everything. Then change how this works. The room went quiet. Greco leaned back. Your father said you would say something like that. Over the next 3 weeks, you began mapping the real structure of what you had inherited. The car washes alone moved over $8 million a month, but 30% was being quietly funneled through accounts in 3 different countries. You had no finance degree, no mentor, no roadmap, just the information in front of you. So you hired a compliance consultant from outside the organization. You told him half the truth and started asking the right questions. Within 1 month, you had identified 6 people inside your own organization quietly stealing from the top. People your father had trusted completely. You did not confront them. You quietly restructured the payment system and watched what happened. Every one of the 6 panicked within 2 weeks. 3 came to explain themselves. 3 quietly left. Greco watched all of it without saying a word. By month 2, the weight of this was no longer just financial. 42 people, their rent, their families, their lives, all connected to decisions you were making alone. Every night you wrote in a journal, one thing you learned, one decision you made, one question you wished you could ask your father. The question you wrote most often was always the same. Why did you wait until you were gone to trust me? Then month 3 brought the first real crisis. A government financial review unit had opened a formal inquiry into one of your import businesses, and someone inside your own organization had leaked information. 2 options: shut the business down and raise suspicion, or fully cooperate and open the books. You chose to cooperate. You brought in a legal team and handed over every document within 48 hours. The inquiry closed 6 weeks later. No findings. And for the first time, Greco looked at you differently. He said, your father always ran from problems. You just walked into one and walked back out. It was the first real compliment you had received from anyone in that world. You began to understand something your father never wrote in the letter. Respect is not inherited. It is demonstrated every single day. By month 5, you made your most controversial move yet. You began converting the hidden operations into fully legitimate revenue streams. Not all at once, slowly, methodically, one business at a time. 2 of the older members confronted you. They said you were dismantling everything your father built. You said, "My father built this to survive. I am building it to last." That night you called your mother. You still had not told her the full truth. She asked how work was going. You said fine. She said your father would be proud, and you did not know what to say. Month 6. You are sitting in an office that costs more per month than your childhood apartment cost in an entire year, and you are still not sure if you made the right choice. Psychologists call it sudden wealth syndrome, anxiety, distrust, loss of identity. You were experiencing all 3. The only person who truly understood the weight of your position was Greco. He had watched 4 people try to lead this organization over 30 years. One afternoon, Greco told you something that changed everything. Your father had contacted him 3 years before his death. He said, "Watch over my son if anything happens to me." Your father had known he was in danger for years, and he spent those years quietly protecting you from a distance. The absence you had resented your entire life was not indifference. It was the only protection he knew how to give. That single realization changed how you led from that day forward. By the end of year 1, 10 of the 17 businesses had been fully restructured, with clean, transparent reporting. Revenue was up 22%, not because of expansion, because you had stopped the bleeding from inside. You were 19, no degree, no training, and you were posting growth numbers a seasoned executive would be proud of. But the hardest moment of the year had nothing to do with money. You had to let someone go. A man who had worked for your father for 19 years. Someone who genuinely believed in what the original organization stood for. His methods no longer had a place in what you were building, but letting him go was not easy. The man stood up, shook your hand and said, "Your father raised a good man from a distance. That takes more than most people know." You sat in your car again afterward, same way you did the very first night. But this time you did not need 2 hours to know what to do next. By the time you turned 20, the last of the 17 businesses had completed its full restructuring. The organization was entirely legitimate. But the transformation was never just about the numbers. It was about what you chose to do when no one was forcing you to choose anything at all. Everyone who told you that you were too young, too inexperienced, too naive to handle this, you thought about every single one of them. You thought about the $47 in your account the day this all started. And you thought about your father. A man who made choices you will never fully understand, but who believed, with everything he had, that you were the right person to carry this forward. You still wake up every morning and open that journal. You read what you wrote on the very first night, and then you write what you know now that you did not know then. Because leadership is not about what you inherit. It is about what you choose to understand when everything is unclear. What you choose to protect when you could easily walk away. And who you choose to become when no one is telling you who to be. If you are carrying something right now that feels too heavy, too complicated, or too inherited for someone your age, This story is for you. If this story hit different, subscribe. Every week we tell stories like this one. Stories about ordinary people handed extraordinary situations and what they chose to do next.